Take a moment to silence your cell phones. We'll be starting shortly. Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you wishing to further honor the memory of Dr. Margery Adelson, you may best do so by means of a contribution to the ASPCA. This information is available on our website, irakaufman.com. Thank you.
Gathered today at a time of sadness to remember and honor the life of Margery Adelson. Eric and Andrea, David, Gretchen, and Michael, I express condolences to you on the loss of your mother and mother-in-law, who meant so much to you and whose memory I'm sure will inspire you through the years to come. We have in mind today, of course, Margery's sister Vivian. Our thoughts are with her and wish her comfort from sweet memories. To the grandchildren, to Hope, Annabelle, Juliana, and Hank, I hope you'll never forget the love your Oma had for you, and will treasure the memories and the pictures and the videos, I'm sure, of her joy of being with you. And to Michael, I wish you comfort in the loss of your dear aunt as well. And to all the family, the friends and the students, the colleagues, our condolences. And I want at this time as well to honor the memory of Joe, with whom Margery built such a beautiful life here in Ann Arbor. I hope that the words we say and the rituals we perform will help begin this process of healing. It's customary to begin with words from our tradition. I'll share some words first from the Psalms and then from the beautiful section of the book of Proverbs known as Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor, which I'll return to a little bit later this morning. But first, some words from the Psalms. Mizmor David Adonai mi yagor be'ohalecha mi yishkon behar kodshecha. O Lord, who shall dwell in your sanctuary and who shall abide upon your holy mountain? The one who lives with integrity, who does what is right, who speaks the truth in the heart with no slander upon the tongue. Whoever lives in this way, their memory shall stand firm forever. The earth is the Lord's in its fullness, the world is God's and all its inhabitants. Mia ale behar Adonai, mia kum bimkom kodsho, who may ascend the mountain of the Lord and stand in God's holy place? The one who has clean hands and a pure heart. That person will receive a blessing from God and will be honored by all who knew her. In the book of Proverbs, we read, Eshet Chayil mi yimtza v'rachok b'pnim michra batach balev ba'ala v'shala lo yechsar gemalatu tov lo ra kol yemei chayeha. A woman of valor who can find her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her family trusts in her, and they lack nothing. She renders good and not evil all the days of her life. Robed in strength and robed in dignity, she cheerfully faces whatever may come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. Her children come forward and bless her. Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all. Wherever people gather, her deeds will speak her praise. We've come together at this time to remember the life of Margery Adelson, Malka Bat Elimelech, recalling the blessing of her life and thanking God for all that was good and true in her life and for the precious memories which will always endure. O God, be gracious to those who mourn. Bless them with your compassion. Help us to ease their burden of sorrow. Send them light and peace. And let us say, Amen. At this time, we're going to hear some words of tribute and music of tribute from three family members. First from David, and then from granddaughter Annabelle, who will play a song which was Margery's favorite song to hear her play. And I saw a picture the other day. I don't want to take away what you might say from here, but I'll say it very quickly. I saw a picture that was sent to me of you playing the song for her, and the smile on your almost face was just so wide. It always was wide, we know that about her, but it was particularly wide in this case. And so it's an appropriate song to play to bring back the smiles through the tears of memory. And then we will hear words from Andrea as well. So David, I'm going to ask you.
Well, when I think of my mom's best qualities and what made her special, a few different things come to mind. She had a great laugh. She enjoyed being around people and was a great listener. She had a great work ethic and had a multifaceted career. She was a teacher, a writer. She authored several publications, and she had a successful private practice. One friend of the family who couldn't make it today described her as the most gifted clinician she knew. She loved her work, but she also loved her spare time. She loved family vacations. We used to go on cruises in her childhood, going out to restaurants, and she loved her downtime at home, sitting on the recliner with her dog by her lap, watching really bad television. Every news story or true crime incident in the past 25 years my mom probably knew about as she watched hours upon hours of Dateline, 2020, different news shows. But there's two things that I think about the most when I remember her. One is a quality that's maybe not as obvious to everyone who knew her, but she's very tough. She dealt with the loss of our dad. And she got breast cancer a few months later. She beat it, and she continued to travel and enjoy her life, even in spite of other health issues. And even with a recent illness, at each juncture, she always outlived each timeline she was given by a nurse or a doctor. Even at the end, when she wasn't fully alert, the nurses gave her a few days, and she lasted more than a week. So I was just always surprised how resilient she was. But her best quality, and I think everyone knows this, was helping and nurturing others. She deeply cared for family, friends, colleagues, and students. She loved animals too. I mentioned the dogs. She had a dog as a child and 2 dogs later in life. During most of our childhood, because my dad didn't really want a dog or cat, she had birds. So we had 2 cockatiels as part of our family. She called once after I had moved out after high school, and I called back, and she answered the phone crying hysterically. And I was scared, like, what's going on? And she said, Candy died. Candy was our second bird. My initial reaction was relief that it wasn't anything more serious than that. But she loved those birds. And it's just, it goes to show you how big a heart she had. And she also kept this clock in the house that made bird chirping noises, so we could always remember them. Her greatest devotion was to her family, though. Husband, extended family, children, and grandchildren. She cared painstakingly for our dad for over 10 years when he was sick. It was very difficult, but she didn't complain. And for her, caring for people wasn't something, it was more than something she just wanted to do or felt she should do, but it was her identity. It was just who she was. And that's why when she developed this illness and it became time for her to accept help, it was very difficult for her. She had trouble giving up her practice, lost mobility, and just accepting help as opposed to giving was more of a foreign concept to her. But eventually she did accept it, and her last few years, I think she appreciated what she had with her family. And what we noticed is the devotion she always had for others was reciprocated. This was seen by friends and from all points of her life continually reaching out, or even, as Eric was saying the other day, caretakers who only knew her in her last few months, who were so devoted to her as they had a sense of what a good person she was. And just the last thing is, when a parent develops an illness such as this, you worry about two things. How long do we still have her? And the second is, when will she stop recognizing us? And just grateful that she continued to recognize us till the end. All right, thanks.
Can this hear me? Can everyone hear me? Hello, I'm Annabelle. I'm 12, and I'd like to just say a few words before I start playing. Since the moment she moved to Florida, I was so happy to have her here, and she loved music. Every single time I played, she smiled, and so did all the other residents. I could tell that it it brought joy to her life, and I'm so glad that she loved it so much. So, this will be, and I loved her, and I really hope she enjoys this. I'm sorry if I look bad, my mascara is smearing. I'll be playing the entertainer.
Annabelle, that was beautiful, and I know Oma would be very proud of you. She is very proud of you, so thank you for doing that. I'm Andrea Adelson, Margery's daughter-in-law, and I feel very strongly in times like these that it's important, no matter how difficult, to get up here and talk about what made this person so special and why you love them so much. But before I start, I want to thank the rabbi for being here. Rabbi Daverson has been so meaningful to the Adelson family for such a long period of time. He's been involved in so many of our momentous occasions, both blessings and obviously in sadness. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. It's incredibly meaningful for our family. I'm going to echo something David said about Margery. There was nobody better to talk to than Margery. She was a thoughtful listener, an encourager, a problem solver, a woman completely devoted to helping those around her by simply sitting down and giving you her full attention. What could she do to make you feel good? She truly would do anything. She loved me like I had always been a part of her family. She always remembered to bring me gifts from trips, to call to check in, to ask about my own parents and my sister. I love so many things about her, and truthfully, part of me always wished I could be like her. Patient, forgiving, and kind. Not just every once in a while, literally all the time. She never judged me, and for that I'll always be grateful. But if there was something she did judge, it was her grandchildren. Hope, Annabelle, Julianne, and Hank. She judged them to be perfect in every way, and her fierce love, devotion, and commitment to them make me weep every time I think about the times they had together. With Hope and Annabelle, my own daughters, I will never forget the way she flew to Orlando the second I went into labor and waited for hours in the waiting room at the hospital the night Hope made her in Oma for the first time. And you should know that I had to have an emergency delivery, and she was unable to meet Hope the day she was born, but it didn't matter. She was in that hospital waiting room with David and my parents until midnight, I think, waiting and waiting and waiting. And she was there first thing in the morning to be able to hold Hope. The way she helped care for Hope when Annabelle was born 2.5 years later. The way she called them both her clever little girls. The way she bought them books upon books from her favorite Ann Arbor bookshop, Nicola's. The way she always had welcome posters filled with their pictures, decorating her walls every time we came to visit. The way she treated them to manicures and pedicures, and we got manicures and pedicures in her honor before we came here. And she always had a Zingerman brownie, or 4, waiting for them on her kitchen table. Juju and Hank had less time with their Oma, and that makes me weep too, but she delighted in them just the same. Her eyes would light up and she would smile big every time they came to visit, or when we showed her pictures and videos of them. For Thanksgiving in 2021, we had everyone together to celebrate. Elma could not stop smiling that day. I love how she loved them, and my wish is for my girls and for Juju and Hank, my niece and nephew, to remember that and hold on to it. There is nothing like a grandmother's love, and there is certainly nothing like the way she loved them. In her last year with us, Margery lost her ability to have a conversation, but she never lost her ability to listen. I would give her all the details about what we had going on in our lives, both the mundane and the exciting. A smile or a twinkle in her eye made me feel like I had just unlocked something inside of her. Every time I went to see her, I would ask myself, what can I do to make Margie feel good? I truly would do anything. We love you, Oma, and we'll never stop loving you.
Thank you for the beautiful words and the beautiful music. And I'll tell you something that I believe with every bit of my heart. I believe that Margery, that Oma, is hearing those words and hearing that music today. And I believe that her presence is very much here in this room and will continue to be a presence in your life. And thank you for your kind words. It has been a privilege to be present with your family in so many occasions. For simchas, for happy occasions, for just the opportunity to talk with Margery at a house, and in Israel back in 2001, when you were all part of our family trip to Israel back then. She was a marvelous woman. Now, when a rabbi begins to think about a eulogy for a woman, the first thought is the Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor, the section from Proverbs that I read before. And it's amazing how some of the sentences in this Eshet Chayil, some of the phrases, seem to reflect so much of the qualities we honor in an individual and seek to emulate, and that is certainly true today. So I want to reflect a bit on some of the words from Eshet Chayil, and to repeat some of the things we've heard before and add some of my own thoughts as well. The Eshet Chayil says, Pia patcha b'chachma. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Margery was such an intelligent and wise woman. She loved and she cared so much about education for herself, and even more so for her students and her family. To her students and those who came to her for counsel and support, she was able to provide the guidance that so many needed. And it was obviously true to her family as well, and they knew they could always count on her for her love, for advice and support. But I love how the verse reads, and I thought of this after talking with the family. I hadn't really thought of it before in all the years that I'd read this phrase, Pia patcha b'chachma, she opens her mouth with wisdom, because it implies that there's a conscious effort to open the mouth and to speak. And talking with the family and remembering my own interactions with Margery, I know how remarkable a listener she was. She didn't always open her mouth to speak. She opened her ears and she opened her mind and she opened her heart to what others were saying and what they were feeling. And I know that some of this comes with training for her field, but it goes far beyond that. Part of the basic personality, basic foundation of her life. One can speak with wisdom, but you can also listen with wisdom, and she did both. I know that when I would visit her, I would ask about the family first, and we talked about all of you. And then we talked about dogs, which of course is a common interest that we share. And then she would ask me about my children and their plans and how I thought about what they were doing. And she even, I wouldn't say offered advice because she didn't know them well enough to offer advice, but she said, here are some things you should think about. And it was really, really important to hear that. And I really appreciated it. And she genuinely cared about everybody that she spoke with. Eshet Chayil also pictures a woman who was robed in strength and in dignity, and she was a strong woman. And I talked with the family, and they told me how brave it must have been for her to leave New York to study, and eventually, of course, come to Michigan. And after meeting and marrying her dear husband, Josie Chrono Livracha, whom we remember with such love and respect today, she started a life for her family in this town. In a town that the family all still loves and considers home in so many ways. And as Joe became ill, her care for him was just heroic, as I was told and I know to be true. She stood by him, helped him, and supported him for so many years. We read in Eshet Chayil that many come forward and bless her. And she left a trail of friends and admirers wherever she went. And so many loved her for her empathy, her wit, her smile, her laugh, and most importantly, her interest in them. Margery loved to travel with Joe and the family, and later enjoying time traveling with Bill as well. She was always engaged with the people that she met and enriched their lives, even in a small way. She had an infectious laugh, and that smile, and anyone who remembers her will remember that smile. I want to just repeat and expand on one of the stories that I heard from the family the other night that touched me deeply. They told me that the caregivers who worked with Margery in Florida after her illness felt so much love for her, even though she couldn't speak or move significantly or interact in a way that we might consider to be necessary for such respect and such honor to come back. But they loved her. They sensed in her who she was. They sensed deeply in her soul what was really important to her. And they felt her reaching out to them, even in the silence. They knew what all of us knew, that she was a caring person who never lost that sense of strength that comes from concern for others and a serious concern for them. And finally, and most importantly, Eshet Chayil teaches us the heart of her family trusts in her, and they lack nothing. Of all the tributes we can say in Margery's honor was her love for her family. The closeness her children feel for each other is a tribute to the importance she placed on family. She loved her children and her grandchildren. She gave you such a good life and helped you every single day to be the people that you are becoming or that you have become. And so as a section from Proverbs ends, wherever she goes, her deeds speak her praise. And while Margery is gone from this world, the memory of her love, her wisdom, her strength, and her smile will continue to inspire all of you, as well as all who loved and all who knew her and all who learned from her. Tomorrow on Shabbat, we'll conclude the reading of the book of Numbers with a section of the Torah which includes the itinerary of the people of Israel from Egypt to the border of the promised land of Canaan. Moses recounts the places and incidents which were critical as the people made their way through the wilderness. And as we stand here today, cognizant of the border between life on this earth and what lies beyond, I know that Margery's influence and her presence in your life will always, always live on through your memories, your dedication to her ideals and values, which are so important in your lives. And as I often say, and will say in this case without any hesitation, you'll sense her presence. You'll sense her presence around you. And no, it won't be the same as having her with you and smiling, but it will be so meaningful because she will be there, continuing to inspire and continuing to guide and continuing to delight in what she helped to build in your family. I pray you'll all find comfort in the days ahead and honor your mother, your sister, your grandmother, your aunt, teacher, and friend with your actions through your life. And that way the memory of Margery Adelson, Malka Bat Elimelech, will always be for a blessing. May she rest in peace. And at this time I'll ask you to please rise so we can say the memorial prayer, the El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Vamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, B'Maalot Kedoshim Utorim Gazor Akia Mazirim Et Nishmat Malka Bat Elimelech Shalcha Liolama. Began Eden Tei Menuchatan Abala Rachamim Astireh B'Seiter Kanafecha Liolamim. Utzror B'Tzrachem In Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachlata V'Tanuach B'Shalom Amishkava V'Nomar Amen. O God exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence to the soul of Dr. Margery Jean Adelson, Malka Bat Elimelech, who has returned to her eternal home. O God, remember and help us to remember all that she performed in the land of the living. May her soul thus be bound up in the bond of life through our memories, through our storytelling, through our love, through our dedication to her ideals. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, I'm going to call for the pallbearers. I would like to make a small announcement. Those of you planning on joining the family at the cemetery for the interment service, we would ask that as the casket leaves the synagogue today, that if you would please go directly to your cars and go directly to the cemetery so everyone can be there in a reasonable amount of time to conduct the service there. Yes, the pallbearers.